It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, April 7th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that loves a rookie lap.
Yeah, that's fun.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, and of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, I mentioned the rookie lap. Karsen Dorwart is an official NHL hockey player now. And I know they lost the game. We're going to get into the X's and O's and what we learned from the game against Montreal, as well as get to our Nemesis of the week later in the show with a little, maybe reluctant Alex Ovechkin talk. But that being said, I think it's always good to celebrate an NHL debut and Karsen Dorwart. I think the thing about him, at least, from first impressions, he just seems like such a well-adjusted and put together guy. Like, you watch what he had to say after practices and pregame and postgame. Of course, he was going to be in the spotlight for it. I just felt like he handled things so beautifully across the board.
Well, we have to remember, what is he, 23? So it's not like,
Like
yeah, it's not like a 19-year-old coming in and taking this lap. And so, like, he's had a chance to have a college career, work out during the week, get well coached during games. And so he's a lot more schooled. Like, I just watched Gabe Perreault with the Rangers, and he's much younger. And Dorwart actually processes faster on the ice right now, and he's stronger. And those things are obvious. He may not be better in 2 years, but right now that's a thing. So you're getting a more complete player. Imagine if I could talk about drafting players and they were all 20, 21 years old, it'd be so much easier. My job would be a lot easier. So, that's a part of being, he was easier to identify that he was going to have these good characteristics.
Well, but I mean, off the ice too, and just in terms of how he carries himself and handled the media.
He's at a big university. He does interviews. Like, you can tell he's had school.
I know.
Yeah.
It's still like a really cool thing to see, like such a young person be so like self-assured and confident coming into an NHL locker room for the first time. I just am constantly impressed by guys who can make that transition really successfully. And, you mentioned his game a little bit. I want to talk about the line he was on because, we had said that it would probably be beneficial to have either Delorier or Hathaway on the line with him as a little bit of protection / mentorship, but not both of them, because it would kind of slow him down a little bit and kind of hinder like his vision a little bit. And I think I would say we were both right and wrong to some degree, right?
Yeah, I think for the complete game, we were right. For a few moments, we were wrong. And you could see it more when they threw him on the power play, and that's what tells the story on that. It's the same with like Jacob Peltier. Like, look what he does now compared to look what he did at the beginning with lesser guys. It's the same thing. Now, that's what I think you're seeing here too. But this is his rightful spot. It's just he's got two guys that aren't ideal.
Yeah, and so that's what was a little disappointing to me, that, throw Ole Lixell on that left wing instead of Nick Delorier.
Would have been so
I'm a
much
happy
better.
I'm a happy camper. Would have been better for him. They would have been able to create more plays because Hathaway can do that when he wants to.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like it would have been a much better combination. I hope to see it in games moving forward. And like, I don't mind that Lixell or Abels would have had to sit for a game to get him in, because that's what happens. And we want different guys getting in. We want this young guy coming to the team to get in. So I'm not mad about it. I'm just like, But I kind of wanted to see for his first game to have him have a
Yeah,
little
he
bit
should have.
more resources
He should have
behind
been in
him, you
more
know?
an ideal situation. Like the Rangers threw Perreault on the second line, and he's playing with
Yeah,
guys like JT Miller. Like that's what
right.
you really should do with this guy for the first game, so he
Yeah.
could really be operating at a higher level. Instead, he had to play a lot of defense, and there was one play where he was
Hmm.
trying to dart across the ice and make a play because the other two guys can't skate well enough to catch
Exactly.
up, and that's a tough
And
spot.
Lixo could. That's
Right,
the thing. You
right, and that's
know,
a tough
like
spot to put him in.
pros and cons of Lixo's game, he's got the hockey IQ and speed to make
Yes.
those plays happen defensively and the
Yeah.
mentality to do them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my little nitpick about
Mhm.
his usage and the line mates. I thought, you mentioned he got some power play time, which we knew based on the fact
Yeah.
that he had practiced on
He
the second
practiced.
unit, and that was fine. But what was interesting to me is Bradshaw after the game, first off, was very effusive and praised him about
Mhm.
his efforts and thought he saw the ice well and read the plays well, but also mentioned that he specifically gave him some extra ice time toward the end. And
Mhm.
in the back of my head, I'm just like, John Tortorella would never have
No
done that.
way.
Not in a
He
million years.
he would have played like 8 minutes this game and not over 10. There's no question.
Yeah, and not gotten those opportunities at the end of the game. And like I hate to, go back to Torts and that mentality, but it was just like a refreshing thing that I noticed in particular that there's a trust that Bradshaw puts in the guys and said, "No, you're an NHL player. You should be out there." Right?
Right. I mean, he had that kind of trust in college. He was in those situations
Mhm.
all the time. So why not put him? It's the same thing as like Joel Farabee when he said, I finally was in a situation in Calgary where I was out there at the end of a game where I wasn't for a very long time with Philly. Like it's like that. And so I think that, yes, that was a very good thing. That's how you help develop.
Yes, exactly. And I thought that Bradshaw's comments about his game were pretty thoughtful and
Mhm.
pretty spot on, right? So, and he himself said that he thought his game got better as the game went on, which is only natural in your first NHL game. And Bradshaw
Yeah.
echoed that for sure. And that, he needs to be harder on pucks and better on breakouts, and that he needs to work on face-offs and maybe to your point about plays toward the end of the game where he needs to just be a little bit more solid in
Yeah.
shutting
He was
plays
2 for
down.
5 on faceoffs. That's not bad.
Yeah, yeah, and but again, adjusting to the NHL
It's
face-off,
hard.
huge,
Yeah, it's hard.
huge difference between college in
I
terms
mean,
of
you're
the
going up
strength
against Jake
and the
Evans. Like, Jake
I
Evans is a
know.
shark.
Yeah, the strength and the positioning
Yeah,
is very different in a
yeah,
face-off at the NHL level. So, I think both of that, like he and Bradshaw were very like honest and I think accurate about how his first game went. And I feel like he's a guy uh, that Dorwart is a guy that's going to absorb this and learn
he
and
will.
get better.
Yeah, there's no question these are important games for him and probably should play every single one of them because this is something he can carry over the summer into next season. And so, yeah, he will definitely learn. He's a smart player.
Yeah, and I hope he plays most of the games going out, if not all,
I would play
at
him in
this
all. I
point.
don't see a reason why you
Yeah.
wouldn't. It's not like A-Balls will be back next year. He's not going to be back next year. And so, like, what are you doing? Like, you want to put, A-Balls in for one more game? I'm with you. But for the most part, he's more of your future. And so
Yeah.
that's, you got to do that.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting to see if, Abels will be back or not. But
I
that
think
being said,
Dorwart's his replacement, basically. Like the
could
idea.
be.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, could be. But at any rate, I do think this was a very good debut for him, even though the Flyers did lose the game. And as a side note, related to his off ice demeanor, I think that when you make your NHL debut and the team loses, just like when you score your first NHL goal or score a hat trick and the team loses, there's always this awkwardness. And I thought he handled it so great.
Yeah,
So great.
yeah, he's good. He's mature.
Yeah, love it. Love to see it. Well, there's a lot of other stuff to talk about with this game, including the power play,
Oh,
which I think is a roller coaster of emotion at this point. We've got to talk Ryan Poehling, Matvey Michkov, Owen Tippett, and Sam Urson. We will get to all of that coming up next.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored job post put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. When you have a new project that requires just the right hire to pull it off, the pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed's sponsored job posts come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Flyers. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need.
On tomorrow's show, we are going to dig more into this 5 forward power play that the Flyers have been using. We're going to talk about it very shortly as it relates to the Habs game, but we're going to talk about it more in general and whether or not we think
Right.
it's a good thing for this team as they try and solve the power play problem. Plus, it'll be Phantoms Tuesday. Still trying to clinch that playoff spot, but we'll get into it, as well as how Jet Luchenko is doing down there this week as well. Plus, we're going to answer your mailbag questions on our Wednesday show, so get those in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com, send us a message on any of our socials, or comment on our YouTube channel. So that power play, Russ, definition of mixed bag here, I
Yeah.
think, where I think it looks better functionally when they get set up, and that is the key to it. It's when they get set up. They're still struggling to get set up,
They really
I
are.
think there, right? It's just it's baffling to me why they can't just get a proper zone exit, get set up, and get more opportunities
I
across the board.
I feel like it should have like and this is going to be a dated reference, but it's probably still around, like an Arthur Murray dance school chart. And like everybody's name is in a spot, and you say, this is where you go,
Yeah.
this is where you go, this is where you go, this is where you, and
You
just
can
like a dance.
equate it to like an NFL football X's and O's chart
Yeah. But
as
like to learn
well.
to salsa, you have to know those
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
and there's a methodology to it. And I feel like
yeah,
the methodology goes out the window the first failed zone exit
yeah.
entry. The first failed zone entry, when it gets cleared right away, it's almost like uh-oh. Now it's just a jumble.
It was pretty evident in that 4-minute power play in the first period where they just could not get it to go. I think they had some good chances again when they got set up. I
Right.
think
That
they
is a
did
key.
have they had some really good puck movement. Couturier had a couple of good chances up front. I thought it did look good for stretches of
For the first
time.
2 minutes. And
Yeah.
then
And
I
then
saw it just started to
yeah.
break down,
Yep.
and the Habs saw it was breaking down, and then that last 45 seconds, they were getting all the shots on goal. Like, they were
They
controlling the
were.
puck, they were getting the shots on goal. It was crazy. And here's another thing I brought up on another show, but I think it's worth bringing up. The Flyers have a few fast skaters, but the Canadiens are loaded with them. They're loaded with them on
Yeah.
offense and defense. And so, like Nick Suzuki on that play by Ersan, and we could talk about it again later. But I just happened to look up how fast does Nick Suzuki go? And he's in the higher 95 percentile of the league, goes around 20 miles an hour in the game.
Yeah.
So like Tippett can do that sometimes. Nick Suzuki's doing it all the time. And you saw that. Like you
Right.
saw that. He just played keep away.
He did, and of course, like, he gets the shorty later
Yeah, later in the game, but
in the game, but, the Canadiens got 3 solid scoring chances on the Flyers shorthanded
yeah,
in the game, and, like, that's a lot. I mean, 2 of them were true shots on goal, 3 scoring chances,
right,
and 1 of them went in.
right.
So, those are not good
No.
statistics there
No, I
for
mean
the
it's a difference in the
Flyers.
game.
Yeah, and the other thing that I thought was interesting, again, with the 5 forward power play was that when Mitchkov was a little dinged up and he couldn't go out there for that first shift, they substituted Owen Tippett in there and kept it a 5-forward power play as opposed to putting Drysdale in, which I thought was an interesting choice. When you don't have your
Yeah.
ideal 5-forward power play, like, should you still do it?
No, you shouldn't. You should have had Andre or Drysdale there, and
Mhm.
that's the thing about the 5-forward power play. Now you're really limiting Emil
Right.
Andre's abilities in a game. That's one thing. And then the other thing is we need to have a discussion about Bobby Brink on the power play. So the almost fall down by him would have been catastrophic because the Canadians would have scored on that. He
Right.
did manage to come out of it, but we know he's not the best skater. Like we all can see it. He gets
Right.
point A to point B, but he's an ugly skater. But just as power play efficiency goes, he has 4 power play points this year. He should be on power play 2. He should never be on power play 1.
Which is interesting to me because I think there's a question there that if you're gonna do 5 forward, shouldn't that, like, Bobby Brink position forward be a center? Like,
Yeah, I would
wouldn't
think
you think
so.
it would be another center?
Yeah.
So, that is curious to me, again, especially in that situation where they had to put Tippett out there instead of Mitchkov.
Right.
Like, that is the thing that confused me, and I know we're late in this season and, in the grand scheme of things, it's not like, we know this obviously, this team is now officially eliminated from the playoffs, which should have
Correct.
said up top, but, like,
I think
that is
everybody
the
knows, but yeah.
I know, but it bears being said, right?
Right.
So I think that it's one of these things where you're looking at systems, and let's say Bradshaw is auditioning to be the head coach of this team. Having the right systems in place is really essential for that audition. And I think it's interesting. Is he making these choices to take more risks than Torts would have taken as a strategy, or is he just not like fine tuning it properly? I'm not sure
Well,
where I fall on this yet.
I do have an opinion about Brad's coaching, and at some point we can really get into that on a show. Now they brought in Angelo to help. I assume
Mhm.
that's to help mostly on the power play. And
Because
again,
that's not his specialty or forte, doesn't know anything about it, really.
but again, you have a guy there that I would tell you knows nothing about it too, in Rocky. So like,
Fair.
I just yeah. So, like, it's a shame that Brad has to do his audition and have Rocky as a
Mhm.
coach. Just I have to just say it like that. It's a shame because he's not a good power play coach. He never was. He never will be. And so that does hurt Brad as far as being able to turn this into a good power play. Yeah, 1 for 4 seems good for the day because it's so bad.
Yeah, that is ugh, I mean, it's true, but also kinda hurts to talk about in that
Yeah.
way, about this team. But yeah, I do think, like, trying to look at systems is an important to-do item
Yeah.
as the waning games of the season are being played out. I do wanna talk about Ryan Poehling continuing his hot streak and getting another goal. Excellent pass from Jacob Peltier. I thought the whole sequence was, really well thought out, and, Bradshaw mentioned about, Pale's, relying on his legs to create the opportunities to score, which is very true. He has that speed, but to see him be able to capitalize on it consistently like this, it is really good. It continues to be good. As we've said, can he do it at the beginning of a season? We'll see.
I'm sure it was nice for him to do it at the Bell Center because
Yeah,
he
former
gave it
team
his
and all.
all in Montreal, yeah, and he just
Yeah.
had injury troubles there, and so I'm sure that felt great.
We mentioned a little bit about Owen Tippett getting that opportunity on the power play. Again, just like
He's
there's
having a
something
tragic
missing there.
season. Yeah, he's
I
just
know.
having a tragic season. It's just this season's just bad. It's just bad. There's no hiding it. There's not enough games left for him to call this a good season. Like it's just you have to call it what it is. And everybody talks about him missing shots, him missing the
Yeah.
net. It's still a thing. We're 2 years and talking about it for at least 2 years straight. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, very, very frustrating. And then Sam Erson's performance in that, I felt like overall, first off, we mentioned the speed of the Montreal team and what they're able to do
Yeah.
north south and plays and rushes that they're able to develop. I thought Samerson had a really good game, and I think that there was a lot of times that the Flyers defense let him down
Mhm.
and allowing things and, the breakdowns and especially on the shorthanded goal was atrocious.
But that was on
Urson is
him too with the
well, yes, and that's the thing is Urson was his usual self in
of
terms of
course.
taking ownership of those
Yeah.
mistakes, and he's like, "Yeah, I could have played it better," and he's
Well,
like,
that's
9
why I
times
put
out of
his name
10
at the top of my good guy award list because he's
yeah.
100% accountable all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's he gets the Yannick Dupré class guy award
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
here.
And he was number 1 for me when I voted for that because he is
Yeah.
constantly taking ownership of that. But otherwise, he did have a good game. And I do
Yeah.
think a little bit of that was Bobby Brink's fault too, because watching it again,
Mhm.
Brink did not send the right message to him as to I'm going to come and get this puck. Brink, and that's another reason why he can't be on power play 1. That's another
Right.
reason that play.
Right. And I think the other main observation I had from this game kind of relates to like the additional shots that Samerson had to face is that the zone exits were atrocious.
Yeah.
And the forward that was high on the wall, I noticed very frequently in this game was waiting for the puck to come to him and it let Montreal intercept the
Oh
puck
yeah, and they
along
went
the way.
right around him. Yeah.
And I'm like, when I was learning to play hockey, that was like 101 kind of
Right.
stuff. And I was just like, you can't just sit there on the wall. You have to
Right.
move.
I
You have to
lost
create a
count.
moving target,
Yeah,
you
I lost
know?
count on how many 2-on-1s there were.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was a result of poor breakouts.
It was.
I really do. But, more games to come. The next game up is the New York Rangers on Wednesday night. We'll
They'll
talk
be
about
desperate too.
yeah, they will. So that's gonna be a doozy. We'll talk about that later in the week, but in the meantime, it is Monday, so we will have our nemesis of the week as well as talk a little bit about Alex Ovechkin because I guess we have to. We'll do that coming up next. Ever check your bank and wonder where did all my money go? In between dining out, some online shopping, and entertainment, sometimes it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. They're your personal CFO. They give you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and spending all in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. And when I first started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery, which is a staple here in New York City. But now I budget a little smarter and save more by doing more targeted grocery shopping. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances and even plan those long term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use Locked On NHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code Locked On NHL for half off your first year. All right, Russ. You had suggested offline that we did need to talk about Alex Ovechkin and the
Just
goal scoring
momentarily,
record
briefly, that's all.
momentarily here because it is a remarkable achievement,
It
and
is.
I give him all the respect in the world in terms of his scoring ability. And people complain about the empty netters, and
He didn't
I don't
take the
know.
empty net when he had it, so, like, he
I
could have done
know,
it.
like, I sometimes, don't really buy into that all the time either. I'm just sick I've said on past shows, in our nemesis of the week, I'm just sick of talking about it. I'm sick of the extra graphics, I'm sick of the constant mentions. I think it's great. I just don't wanna hear about it 24/7 and have a little
Right.
score bug in the corner of every other game going on about it, you know?
No, that's
That's just
fair.
that's just me. However, he did tie the record.
Mhm.
As of recording, there is a game on Sunday, but as of recording, that game is not over yet, and he has
Right,
not officially broken the record. We don't know. We're sitting
right.
here in no man's land on that front at the moment. But I think that being said, even tying the record is pretty freaking cool, and he does deserve all those accolades.
Yeah, it's great. It's great that Gretzky's there. Gordie Howe was there for Gretzky. Uh, and back in the day, they waited like Gretzky did it at home. So Gordie Howe had to take like an extra, time there of
Mhm.
traveling. I don't think this is going to happen. I think the Islanders are going to give up that goal. I just do. So, and I think if this is correct, I saw this online, but this guy's a pretty good source, so I'm going to say it. He said that 894 was scored by Gretzky against the Islanders as well. So
oh, really?
Yeah. So it'd be interesting if Ovechkin were to break it against the Islanders. So we'll see.
Yeah, as far as the Flyers go in the pantheon of Alex Ovechkin scoring, the Flyers are the second highest team in terms of goals against. I mean, obviously in division, there's going to be more games involved. So, take of that what you will. But Ovechkin, in terms of shooting percentage, had his third highest shooting percentage against the Flyers versus any of the other teams. Maybe that's a Flyers goaltending conversation there.
It could be. And one day when we do a little more on Ovechkin, when he breaks the record, I can give a little insight as to one of his first game in Philly and what he had told me. And it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think so. But I think, the celebration is warranted and definitely instant. I almost think they need to make an exception in terms of a waiting period for the Hall of Fame. Just the second he retires, just put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they should.
Let's just do that because I think it
would make sense.
It would just make perfect sense. And it has been pretty cool in the grand scheme of things. I can admit to that. Turning to our nemesis of the week. Last week, I talked about the lack of games. We had, that 5-day break in between games. It just seemed like forever. And I complained about, the scheduling and how it didn't work. You talked about ballpark food, and you went to Mets opening day. And I will say this, the food at Citi Field is really great. It's a great ballpark, and I'm not afraid to say that. Citizens Bank is better.
Oh, no, I don't know if it's better, but I like it. I like both of them.
Yeah,
they're both really good.
Yeah, they're both really good parks.
They are
really good parks. But so it was an appropriate conversation. I'm going to take one last dig at the schedule makers, even though I kind of did this last week, just because I can, because it's the last week of the schedule coming up next week. And the fact that the Flyers had a game on Saturday, don't play again until Wednesday, right? And then back to back over the weekend. What are we doing here?
I know.
Can we distribute these games?
Yeah.
Especially at the tail end of the season. Do we really need to put these guys through that? Really? Come on. I don't know.
Now you can practice. Now you have practice time.
I know. So it's super annoying to me. And I feel like this is my last opportunity to shake my fist at the schedule makers. So I will do that until the schedule comes out in July and I get to do it all over again.
Yeah, I'm going to shake my fist at Pirates owner Bob Nutting. And so woke up yesterday, saw that Roberto Clemente Jr. had tweeted something, and I'm like, okay, I follow him. What is it? Well, they took down the logo of his dad's number in right field where he played for Pittsburgh and shined and won them championships, and they put a drink ad there instead, an alcohol company, and no explanation. They didn't tell the fans. They didn't tell anybody. So then they were in damage control, and they sent out a media note that said, hey, that wall, that's like Clemente wall, and we have a statue out front, and we have this. We love Roberto Clemente. It's like, yeah, you don't love him enough if you took down his number and you put up a drink ad. And so now there's things flying over the stadium that say, sell the team, Bob. And I agree. It's I will never go to PNC Park again. And because of that, because I grew up a big fan of Roberto Clemente, and I think this is just horrific that they did this, and with no notice. They just felt like they acted like nobody was going to notice, and he's their biggest star of, they had Honus Wagner way back, but he's their biggest star otherwise.
Yep.
And it's everybody noticed instantly, and I tweeted out a picture of the picture I took there of that same logo many years ago. So yeah, it's disgusting.
Well, I'm going to have to talk to my brother about that because he lives in Pittsburgh and has a game plan with the Pirates that he and my nephew go to. So Maybe they have thoughts and feelings about it. I'm certainly going to investigate now. That is for sure. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. And on tomorrow's show, as I said, we have Phantoms Tuesday. We're going to talk more about that 5-4 power play. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. You can send in your questions or Flyers thoughts to any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on the Locked On NHL feed on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.